Hello everyone, welcome to Convicted Patriot, your source for common sense conservative values. Today is February the 13th, 2026. My name is Christian Russ, and if this is your first time seeing or hearing me, please just give me 10 minutes of your time to hear me out, and if you're not feeling it, then give me 10 more minutes. But seriously, my goal is to be completely honest with you, which I know is rare in today's day and age. Well, I'm so sick of the left starting problems and causing issues and then running to the rescue with their own solutions. I could use the whole illegal immigration thing as an example. They let somewhere between 20 to 50 million unvetted illegals in and created the current housing market crisis and the ever-growing strain on our welfare system due to fraud. Now it's a big deal that ICE is here and arresting them, and if you just vote Democrat, they'll handle that for you. And of course, they want to stop the SAVE Act so that illegals can continue to vote like we all know they do and they all swear they don't. Since 2004, the Social Security Administration has been helping to verify registered voters in each state, and starting from 2011 until now, there has been a total of an average of 28% of Social Security numbers that come back as unregistered. That's roughly 1 out of every 3 people. That means they aren't real socials in the system. Another recent discovery, an example of this, is the recent Fulton County raid has shown that for every 100 voters, there are 115 people registered, which is obviously insane to think that for every 100 people, there are 5 ghost votes. Imagine this on a national scale. If this is allowed to continue, and please understand that our elections mean nothing and are strictly for theater in that case, I'm not just here to bash the left either. The soft-ass, spineless Republicans can't pass anything anyway. This is a damn near 80% favored national issue, and somehow it seems impossible. Republicans finally got what they wanted and promised to do so much with draining the swamp and changing the country and bringing us back to our former glory, and they haven't done shit. They haven't passed shit, and Trump's executive orders, to his credit, are the only things that have even began to go in the direction that we voted for. We need them to be codified. It is hard to reverse law once it has been codified. And Republicans need to kill the damn filibuster and get the SAVE Act passed so we can actually get a secure election. This whole issue it's insane, and it's being exaggerated in misinformation spread by retarded liberals. And you guys are so based in your politics that are you simply against this shit just because it's something that conservatives want? You're brainwashed to hate all that comes from that direction on the right. Listen, 176 countries worldwide require voter ID, and that's roughly out of 200 countries that are recognized. So clearly the majority of countries in existence, to an extreme degree, require voter ID. It's not racist. And it's not misogynistic or whatever the hell the people are trying to spin it to be. I mean, it's more racist on the liberal side. Are you really trying to say, and misogynistic, really, are you trying to say that black, brown people, and women aren't able, they don't have enough common sense and intelligence to obtain a few documents that are really not that hard to get? I mean, if you're already registered, then you're not forced to re-register. And once you do register, you just have to show ID at the polls to vote, people. That's it. To register, you'll have to prove you're a U.S. citizen, and that can be done by so many ways, and most of the documents, as an adult, you should have, or at least know the location of, or how to get them. A few examples are birth certificate, passport, license, military ID, if you're adopted, like an adoption decree, if you have been recently naturalized, your naturalization documents. I mean, those are just a handful of ways you can prove it. And for people that are saying women that change their names after marriage are going to have to do all this and that to register, man, listen. My wife figured it all out by herself in about 10 whole minutes. She is indeed a very intelligent woman, so I know most of you can relate. If you're listening to my voice right now, then you're an intelligent person regardless of your gender anyway. Anyway, to bridge the gap of a name change from like a birth certificate with a maiden name into the new ID that you now carry with your surname, all you need is your marriage certificate, which my wife also has put up in handy because once again, we're responsible adults. We have too much fraud going on, and it's killing our right to choose our leaders in our own system. And that is why our system is currently so disrupt and so corrupt and so disloyal, because they honestly don't work for us, being that we did not vote for them. 92% of the time, the ones that spend the most money in America win the election anyway. And that's just donors picking them at that point. And this is underlined more by things like, in Pennsylvania in 2020, you had 1.8 million mail-in ballots go out and 2.5 million come back. The ones of you that say like the SAVE Act is authoritarian, where the hell were you when the Patriot Act was passed? I mean, damn, what about the privacy concerns and outright admissions from the former NSA agent Edward Snowden back in the Obama administration? You keep calling the right fascists, yet you assholes are literally in Minnesota right now, undoubtedly sent into the meat grinder by your local Democrat politicians that fuel their entire campaigns off hatred for Trump, stopping people and self-made roadblocks asking for ID and to prove that they aren't ICE. You have Discord servers with tens of thousands of people helping you run license plates and check people's names in the system to see if they're feds, and you're calling someone a fascist? This is quite literally a dystopian like Bolshevik-style pushback against an agency that was and still is supported by the majority of the American people. Now, hell no, I don't like the fact that people are dying, but you best believe that the Democrat politicians are going to keep sending more and more into the meat grinder so they can martyrize them. They need something to keep fueling the image and idea that ICE is fascist and out of control and targeting, hunting innocent people, or whatever the hell the new spin is today or will be tomorrow. What you won't hear about is things like, Operation Dirtbag that was carried out in November of last year in Florida, where over 230 arrests of illegal immigrants were made, and out of those, 164 of them were sex offenders, and 54 of them were child predators. The remaining few out of those numbers were convicted murderers and drug traffickers. And I don't see anything wrong with removing these people, not only from our free society, but from our country as a whole. You do realize that this is what you're protesting when you push back against ICE, right? And I'm sure there are some assholes that have a badge that don't deserve it. That's honestly not even up for debate. But overall, as a majority, people aren't inherently bad. And I honestly believe that. Although, we have recently all found out just how evil some of the most prominent people on the planet truly are. And I've probably gotten around double-digit hours into these emails, and I've barely scratched the surface. But as I've said before, and if you've watched some of my early content where I brought this stuff up, I feel vindicated. I've been saying this about the global elite that really run things, how they are parasitic and worship Babylonian deities for power and control. Money comes from the territory, but these bloodlines have been infiltrating empires for hundreds of years. And it's with the evil shit they do. And all it does is make every single Christian that much more rooted in our faith, because the Bible speaks of these practices and deities by name, such as Moloch, Baal, or Baal, all one and the same. The six-pointed star of David that flies on the Israeli flag is actually the star of Moloch, and that can be found in Acts 7:43 and Amos 5:26. You will never in the Bible find where the Star of David is attributed to David himself. It's actually never even mentioned. Christians that support this country blindly, you need to read your Bibles. They literally have the star of a Babylonian deity on their country's flag. And you know what's clear as day in the files is the relationship that Jeffrey Epstein had with Israel. And I think it's about a 99.9% chance safe to say that he was clearly Mossad, or he worked for Mossad. He informed to Mossad. His emails back and forth joking about Mossad with Ehud Barak are painfully obvious. So please know that that means that every victim that ever stepped foot around that man was for the betterment of Israel. And that's just calling balls and strikes, hate it or love it. I'm not coming after Jews. I have absolutely no issues with Jews in general, and I don't believe in collective punishment. I am in no way anti-Semitic nor racist, but I will lay facts on the table, and I'll let you decide what you want to do with them. And the IDF is now accepting the number of around 70 to 90,000 civilian deaths, mostly women and children in Gaza. And if they're agreeing with it, then best believe it is much higher, just by human nature, simply by human nature. Back to Epstein, though. I mean, I'm I'm so on the side of Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie on this. The laws that was passed said that redactions were to only occur with victim concerns and privacies and for reasons of national security. And when you have Kash Patel on TV saying that he for 100% fact knows that there is no evidence that this was conspiracy. He said that there was no proof that that they have obtained at this point that indicates that Epstein facilitated any women for anyone he didn't share. Then I think it's weird we found a redacted page saying known conspirators with a list of 7 redacted names, one of which Thomas Massie just got the Justice Department to uncover, which was Les Wexner, and come up with some bogus excuse that he was on the other files too and they have nothing to hide or whatever. Yeah, whatever. These people like Nancy Mace and Massie or whoever else that are trying to play like they want to be righteous yet stay politically correct. What you really need to do, if you're all for this, if you're all in for this, if this is what you really stand for, I mean, you've pushed back so much, you've got President Trump hating you, which, I mean, more power to you. What's right is right. Then go on the House floor and just start dropping names where you're legally protected to do so. Stop talking about it and be about it. And I will tell you that it was quite interesting to uncover that it was indeed Trump that tipped off the feds and led to the arrest of Epstein in Florida in 2008. And I'm sure the liberals loved that. But one thing I want to make clear is that while I am MAGA, naturally, I want to make my country, I want to restore it back to its glory that it once held for my legacy's sake, children, grandchildren, so on and so forth. But I am not a cult member. I do not worship Trump, nor think that he is constantly playing 5D chess. I'm not white-pilled. Anyone that watches me know this. Balls and strikes, remember? And if at any time his name comes up in this information and is clear as day that he is indeed involved, as for many people it is, then his head can roll too. So far, I haven't seen that, and I've been looking extensively. Could it possibly be in the other 3+ million files yet to drop? Maybe. There was also a report of Epstein's death from the Justice Department in the files that had him found dead under the same circumstances but dated an entire day early, which they have assured us was a typo. But mind you, the name of the day, such as like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, was typed out along with the rest of the date. You see, the elites, they're moralists. And they're quite literally above the law. They can blackmail or pay or influence or bribe their way out of everything. And Epstein's original plea is a deal of 13 months for child sex trafficking with a 12-hour leave for jail 6 days a week for work release. That shows that. Did you know Epstein won the lottery twice in New Mexico? And one time was 2 days after his arrest, and he won for $80 million. Which, I mean, that leaves you to think, like, who in the hell is powerful enough to pay this man off this way? Who can call a shot like that? Well, see, Epstein, as it turns out, was more than just the simple patsy that we all assumed he was at first. He was a very powerful and connected man that held ties with British royals and would frequently receive tips on European insider trading, which he built a fortune with. He had ties with the UAE and the Saudis, which I'll dive deeper into in a second. And he had ties with Peggy Segal, and in turn, all of Hollywood's elites and A-listers. He had high-ranking government officials from all over the world kissing his ass and begging for his attention. Doctors, lawyers, scientists. He had Bill Gates briefing him on nanotechnology and these shots and the new virus pandemic simulations that they were planning to run back in 2017, and he wanted Jeffrey to be a part of it. Asked for his ideas and input. He was speaking to an evolutionary biologist named Robert Trivers about how transgender phenotypes and how erotic they are, how much money they would bring in for homosexual men that wanted to remain masculine while living a fantasy, how they would soon possibly have parents looking at their 3-year-old and seeing signs that they may be trans. He was also speaking to Dr. Jess Ting, which is a disgusting way to describe this person, who is a plastic surgeon and plastic and reconstructive surgeon, who became the surgical director of Mount Sinai's Surgeon for Transgender Medicine and Surgery. Okay, well, that was in New York City, and this doctor performed surgeries for Epstein on clients that he would personally recommend. Obviously, his ties to Ghislaine are ties to her father, and most of you already know well enough about Robert Maxwell and his tentacles into the American education system via owning McGraw-Hill and working for Mossad. I don't see the need to get too deep into that, but I will get into the Islamic connection. I've made this whole debacle connect through religions, and it's wild. And for those of you that laughed at Alex Jones when he was trying to say that Muslims are holding a very big stick in this game, well, you may need to sit down and check this out for a second, okay? So I started digging into the temple on Little St. James Island because I seen a reel about how it was a temple for Baal. And that just seemed way too easy and much too vindicated for me. So I decided to dig. What I found was the original blueprints for this turned in by Epstein for permit purposes. It looks nothing like the finished product. What it actually was a temple that was recreated called the Haman Yalbuga that was originally built by the Mamluks. The word Mamluk transcribes to English as one who is owned, which means that slaves built it. And being that Epstein had sex slaves, that's symbolic within itself. But it goes much deeper. See, the Mamluks were followers of this early prophet Muhammad, before his revelations from Allah, apparently. And Muhammad was from the Quraysh tribe. And it doesn't take but a little digging to find out that the Quraysh tribe received their deities from the Moabites, which were descendants of Abraham via Lot. Well, Hubal was among one of the deities that translates from Aramaic, the language of Jesus, to he who is Baal. So therefore, the Quraysh, and Muhammad included, originally worshiped Baal. Well, if you do some digging on Baal, the Babylonian deity of which Epstein had a banking account literally named after, the god of child sacrifice, the considered male part of the paradigm, and a moon god, well, the Kaaba, the giant black square in Mecca that all Muslims must make a pilgrimage to, is told to hold pieces of the moon. Coincidence? Maybe it's no coincidence then that Epstein, via the UAE and the House of Saud, received a piece of the Kiswa cloth from the Kaaba. A piece of the moon, maybe? Keep in mind that Epstein was Jewish, and henceforth on the complete opposite spectrum of Islam, quite literally mortal enemies. And if you take in the context of the Talmud and the Quran, quite literally mortal enemies. So back to the Alex Jones comment. It seems that the Muslims are to the Zionist what Antifa is to the Democratic Party, which would explain why Europe looks like it looks right now. I'm going to bring on a guest here in a moment to discuss these things a little more and to get an in-depth look at what blue-collar America thinks about this country and where we're headed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Nathan Cortes, a blue-collar working Christian man from the East Coast that has moved out west and restarted his life. Now, Nathan, earlier I was talking in this episode a little bit about what we have going on with Jeffrey Epstein and his ties into the Muslim community. And being that you were a Christian man, it turns out, unfortunately, it appears that we are the only Abrahamic religion that actually worships a pure God. Are you at all surprised by the revelations of anything that you found out about these files so far?
Not a single bit.
So I think it's safe to say people like, I really wouldn't give myself much credit because I haven't been speaking on conspiracy much, but like Alex Jones, that has been saying for forever now that these global elites are sacrificing children to a Babylonian deity for power and influence and money. It's not crazy anymore. And it's crazy. What is crazy is that while we have all of this going on, we just had a massive file dump by the DOJ. We were promised over 6.5 million files, from close to 7 actually, of Jeffrey Epstein's emails and documents that were obtained from his electronics. And we've only received a little over 3.5 million at this point. It is possible, I guess, that Trump and other people could be on the other side of this, and that's why it's taken so long. What is going on with this administration? Like, are you happy? Did you get what you voted for?
I would say half and half. There's some things that came out that I'm pretty hype about. I'm finally getting some of the justice or the just or the vindication that I've over all these years that I've stayed up to date with this Epstein file.
Well,
But
Well, as far as the Epstein files go, we're not really seeing much of anything from the Justice Department, and as far as the population goes in general, which is really what I was trying to wrap this back around to, because you yourself are of Puerto Rican descent, are you not?
Yes.
Okay, so that being said, this is perfect, and while we have this going on, we have the Justice Department and the government pretty much trying to cover it up and ignore it. And we have the population arguing over Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl. Um, you're Puerto Rican, but you're also a Christian conservative man. So I'm sure you're possibly maybe aware of the lyrics Bad Bunny was speaking to millions of people in America, including children.
Yes, absolutely. It's complete degeneracy, and anybody that said it was um, family friendly and nothing but bringing us together is they're just blind.
So you're telling me this wasn't racist.
No,
Okay. So it's
not
not
one bit.
like the evil white Americans just don't want to accept the Puerto Rican culture. That's not what this is, right? Because it
No.
seems like that's what it's being portrayed to be. If you watch the Turning Point halftime show, which ratings came in, they say streaming at about 40 to 50 million. And the way the ratings work is, okay, so the way that TV ratings work, so to speak, I think they're called Nielsen ratings, is what they do is they look at like a restaurant and they see that this restaurant's occupancy can hold, let's say, 60 people. So if the TV channel in that restaurant is on that broadcast, they then get the numbers of 60 people, the entire population of the restaurant. So they just automatically add in all the occupants of the restaurant and say that they are watching it. So therefore, these numbers end up being somewhere about triple of where they should be because they're assumptions, right? So they're all times three. So if they're saying Bad Bunny got it somewhere, I think it was like 120 million or something. So really that equates to about 40 that were probably watching it. So see, the difference is with the Turning Point halftime show is you had to seek that out. You had to actually pull your phone out or get online yourself and actually go to the website or find a link. You had to seek that out. And with the Super Bowl halftime show, most of the time, like in the bars that all these numbers were getting, people weren't watching. As a matter of fact, as the ratings came in and the numbers came out, at halftime, they lost a huge chunk, almost half, if not half, of their viewership during the halftime show. It dropped dramatically. So people actually were cutting it off. But they still gave them watch credit to all the TVs that were on, like I said, per the amount of people per household. So like the median household, I think, holds 5 people. So every household in America, therefore, got 5 viewers. That's what they got in their ratings. So if Turning Point got 50 million streams, therefore, if you use that logic, they got 150 million viewers. So, I mean,
Yeah.
hell, they rivaled it. In the least, they rivaled it. Even if my numbers are huge exaggeration, they rivaled it. Which it looks good for the country. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Latina music, but I'm not saying there's
No.
anything wrong with the culture. Listen, America is beautiful because of the acceptance of all these cultures. But one thing that America can't lose sight of is the culture that built this country. And
Yes.
and it's not racist. It is just factual that the European civilizations all around the world are the most thriving and the ones that everybody wants to be a part of. And I believe, me personally, because I'm a Christian, I believe what makes them thrive is the fact that they were originally Christian nations. Therefore, God has backed them because they follow God's teachings. And the farther these nations fell from God, the farther they have fell from grace in general, as where they began. It is insane to think that originally we came from Europe. What created
Hey,
America started in Europe, and now Europe is no longer.
yeah, here's one thing I will say about the whole Bad Bunny fiasco is a lot of people, they tie their nationality, their ethnicity to them. That which is a good thing in a sense, but at the same time, when you're here in the US and the US is what has brought you to your standard of living, your lifestyle, they've accepted you, that you've lived your entire life here, but then you still want to hold that flag. no matter what. And it's like, okay, let's say you're here 3 generations, 4 generations, 10 generations down the line. Are you still gonna hold that flag even though you never went back?
So I suppose displaced loyalty is what you're looking for.
Yes.
Well, see, the problem with it is we have allowed, and I don't care what anyone says, we have allowed Zionists to overtake our everything in Western culture. And it's been happening at least since the end of World War II, when America really became an empire. That is when we say we're a republic, we're a fucking empire. We take shit over and we take what we want, and there's nothing anybody can do about it because we have the biggest stick. And that's just what it is. And that's how it's been for the longest time. We would never admit that is what it is. But I don't know. Donald Trump's kind of leaning towards it with the way he's aggressively doing things like Venezuela and then threatening Greenland. And he's kind of moving like an empire at this point. But I mean, hey, anyway, I'm not even going to get into that because I could get really far right and start sounding like real Nick Fuentes right here. And that's not my shtick. I'm not trying to edgelord or seem like I'm like a white supremacist nationalist. But I will say, I I I I think it's okay to self-describe as a Christian nationalist. I believe that is what has kept the heartbeat in this country for so long.
Yeah, it's okay to describe yourself as Christian and say you want those same morals for everybody else in the country because it is so good. There is, it's brings nothing but prosperity and in your life, and not only financially because you become a more dedicated person, but spiritually and socially. You become a better person in general. But also on the whole Bad Bunny Kid Rock fiasco, I know Kid Rock has had some a bad past, but it was wild. I'm not gonna lie.
Well,
Uh,
I will say, and my wife brought this up to me, and I almost caught myself in a cult-like manner trying to defend it, but you can't. Those lyrics that went viral, that everybody were reposting about, the statutory line, those are
yeah,
terrible. Those are terrible, and they're real. And they're really indefensible. And I understand the culture in the 90s was different, and that man himself, Robert Ritchie, in the 90s was different. I get that. And the message that he brought to the Super Bowl wasn't that of statutory rape or anything of those manners. He actually closed it
exactly.
out with a message of Jesus Christ, which says a lot because you had Bad Bunny. And if there are children watching, cover their ears. I'm about to get a little graphic, but Bad Bunny on live television in front of hundreds of millions, supposedly, reportedly, children involved. Children are in the rooms at these things. Hell,
Absolutely.
when I was a kid, my church had Super Bowl parties. I would go to church Super Bowl parties. So I'm sure that's still a thing. Well, that being said, church groups then, in front of them also, Bad Bunny is asking a promiscuous woman if her man eats her ass. And if he doesn't, then he'll eat it up and make her come while he finger fucks her. And that was live TV. No bleeps. Yes, it was in Spanish. What does that matter? That's not the
It
point. The
doesn't
point
matter
is,
because
if
it
it
was
was
in
in
Spanish.
English, the FCC would have him by the balls right now. So
Exactly.
how is that any different? Is that like, what's the word? Is that like a double standard?
Yes.
Because if I got up there, or let's just say, not even me, let's say Kid Rock, for instance, and he performed that very song that the lyrics went viral of, oh, good Lord. No
Yeah,
way.
that
But how
exactly.
were what Bad Bunny said even better? How was that any better? Yeah, it's not talking about statutory rape, but it's talking about eating assholes and finger fucking somebody in front of children. I don't know, man. Listen,
And
neither
well,
here nor there.
another thing is they try to put it up on a pedestal as like, "Oh, the first Latino." And it's like, didn't Shakira do the Super Bowl?
Didn't Jennifer Lopez too?
Yeah.
And see,
It's
well,
like,
not only that, and it's not got anything to do with race, and that's I'm so tired, and you know, honestly, I don't even care anymore. It's to the point where, and I know you frequently respond to a lot of things that I say in post, but somebody mentioned to me the other day how I have yet to make a positive comment about an African American during the month of February. That I just
why
that I'm
why haven't you?
well
That's
well,
what I wanna know is why haven't you?
okay, fair enough. I tell you what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get all of Martin Luther King Jr.'s biography that I've just recently found, and I'm gonna make a post for him, and we're gonna
There we
celebrate
go.
this guy and his massive sex orgies and his over
Yeah,
40 mistresses that he cheated on his wife with.
all his communism.
And his oh, yeah, and his Marxist views. Well, see, the thing is, um, I haven't said anything negative about Black Americans either, and I don't even like to call them African Americans. They do not have dual citizenship. They are not from Africa with a citizenship now in America. Slice African Americans, like you know, there are European Americans that live dually and stuff. I am not. Yeah, I am not a European American. I do not have dual citizenship. I'm an American, just like these blacks are Americans. They're just as American as me, just as American as you. They're
Exactly.
Americans and they're just black. So they're Black Americans. That would be technically the politically correct term if we want to be all liberal and politically correct. But that being said, you know, I haven't said anything bad about them. I have no problem with them. Only people I shred on my show are my own because I am ashamed. I am ashamed. And I mean, I guess you have half of this shame, but I am ashamed of the spineless white race, particularly how the alpha white male has become the beta now and has let all these other fucking people tell them what he can and can't say and where he can and can't go and what he can and can't do, and they just take it. And if anything was portrayed onto any other race the way it is the white race, it would be racist, automatically condemned, shouted down. You will be blacklisted, you will be cursed. But you say it about or to a white person, and it's okay because the white privilege and we've reigned for so long is our time to step to the side and let everybody reparations, by the way, you know, which San Francisco actually has tried to put back on the budget, which is crazy. But if you can
This is
prove,
this this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, is, if you tried this woke stuff in any other non-majority white country, how do you think it would go over?
it hasn't been tried in any other non-majority white country. It has only been tried. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because specifically in every single majority ran white country has it been tried and succeeded. As a matter of fact, every white majority country on the planet right now outside of America, thanks to Donald Trump, is being slammed with mass illegal immigration. That includes Great Britain, Canada, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, New Zealand, and Australia. All predominantly white countries, all being slammed with mass illegal immigration right now. The Great Replacement is not a theory. It is happening in front of us and has been happening for a very long time. The Democratic Party realizes, and it's not only on the globalist level of great replacement, where the fact that they want to, you know, implement Agenda 2030, where by 2030, part of it would be all majority white population be the minority by that year. Not only on that spectrum, but see, the Democratic Party has now realized that they have jumped from victim class to victim class to victim class to the point where they are out of voters. They never can deliver on any of their promises, and the only thing they ever do is fuck over the people that vote for them and raise taxes. Everything they touch dies, from education to healthcare to every damn thing, the economy. I could keep going on and on and on. And I'm not condoning Republicans either. They suck too. I'm just
Yeah,
specifically
they're pretty
focused on
spineless.
they're the lesser of the two evils right now. And that's because conservatives are predominantly Christian and Democrats are predominantly atheist. And with the lack of spiritual discipline or the thought that there is anything presiding over you to deter you from bad actions leads to the insanity that we see. The pushback on ICE, these people don't realize that ICE is literally, like I mentioned earlier, you had Operation Dirtbag that was last November in Florida, where over 230 illegal immigrants were arrested. You never heard about this operation. It was never televised or put on the mainstream media. But out of 230 that were arrested, 76, excuse me, 164 were sex offenders and 54 were child predators. And that are the people that they are going after. That's who they're sent in there for. That's what we voted for. So all these people that protest ICE, there's literally pamphlets and classes being taught on how to unarrest people, get them out of the back of ICE vehicles, how to get handcuffs off of them once you get them to a safe location. It is crazy, but the point is the majority of the American population voted for this, still support this, and you have this small percentage that, well, hold on. Here's my question to you, because I'm having trouble with this myself. Now, I'm an independent. I lean more right, okay? But when it comes to submitting to Big Brother, I'm not really a fan of that. So supporting the government has always felt a little strange to me, but I do realize that we need a strong and disciplined government to survive as a country. And the only reason that I support a functioning conservative government like I do, small government that only does necessities, that only does things that have to be done to make this country run and be safe, things like that, is because I have children. And I believe that they need to grow up in the America that I grew up in, and my legacy, period, is what I'm worried about. But that being said, back to my point is the whole supporting Big Brother thing. It kind of feels weird to me, especially, my past. I have been in and out of prison, and I've been to federal prison. So myself, I have been in a fight with the federal government and obviously lost. But regardless, my point is, it's weird to see someone like me come back and say, okay, listen, I think that this administration's right and you should let these fucking federal agents go into these cities and take these people. Of course, it sounds weird, but I understand.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, I understand that our economy can't take it. Okay. Our welfare strain is getting so split to the seams. We cannot keep paying for these children's health care or their education or these people's housing, their transportation, their food stamps, their reloading cash cards. We can't continue to afford this because we're paying into this system while they take out and pay nothing in. And let's be real. We found out through Doge that Social Security's gone. That is gone. It's a scheme. It's been gone. So it's scary to think of, but we probably won't have it by the time we reach the age of 65. But back to my point is, at what point does it become a problem to support ICE?
For them to come in and have all the identification tools to be able to hunt these people down, right? Is that what you're asking?
Well, there were rumors floating around that they were going door to door, which that was cleared up by DHS, and they were saying that the only doors they were going to are tips they received on crime ongoing in these areas. They were pointed specifically to these doors. But, okay, let me give you an example. You have what we'll call Antifa, because, that is an umbrella. So we'll call it Antifa. You have them setting up. Now, mind you, they call the right fascist. They say that ICE is fascist. This whole movement's fascism. It's evil. It's authoritarian. Okay. Well, they literally have homemade roadblocks set up, where they are checking vehicles they find suspicious, making you roll down your ID before they let you roll down your window before they let you through, show your ID prove that you're not law enforcement. And if they find you sketchy, they have Discord servers they're a part of where they have tens of thousands of people helping them run your ID and your plates to identify you. Now, if that doesn't sound like Orwellian, dystopian, Bolshevik revolution style fascism, I don't know what does. But what
sounds like a Nazi to me, dude.
Well, it's effective. It works. They're identifying people and they're making it hard. So
Yeah.
would it be wrong to say, hey, why doesn't ICE do the same thing? Why don't they just set up random roadblocks all around the city and stop everybody and check ID? That's really fucking fascist for sure, but it's effective and it works. Could they argue against it? I mean, they're doing it. They're not even officials of the law and they're doing it.
No, it's only bad when one side does it. That's the issue. It's again, the right is so spineless that they can't just man up and realize that the left and the media, they're always going to go portray whatever they do as Nazi, fascist, racist, you whatever label you put on it. We've seen it for the past 12 years. That's all they do. But instead of them saying screw it and dealing with the problem at hand that we all voted for. And again, this isn't me saying every brown person needs to go. That's ridiculous. That is a straw man of every argument that the right has. But it's to get rid of people who are, one, sucking off the teat when they came here, immediately got benefits, and people who are here doing crimes, period. They should go immediately. But people who came across illegally, they should, regardless, try to find a immigration lawyer somehow or another and figure something out.
Well,
But
here's what I'll
everybody else
say
has
about
to go.
that. They need to figure that out. They absolutely, and I'll agree with that part, they do need to figure out a way to make the legalization process way more efficient and faster for those that are willing to do it the right way. That would encourage more to do it the right way, because apparently it takes forever. And I'm not familiar with the entire process, but I do know that it takes a very long time, sometimes over 10 years, which is ridiculous. And obviously that is discouraging to people. They don't want to do it the right way. But as far as ICE goes, and I've heard a lot of different ideas from a lot of different people, and this is basically what I can brainstorm to come up with that I think would be effective, okay? And this is just me. You're going to see my inner fascists come out now, okay? So, I believe that they are pussies. I believe that they are worried too much about public opinion, and they are scared to do their job for backlash from the public. I believe that they have that mask on for a reason, because they will get doxxed and possibly hurt, families hurt, killed even, if a crazy fucking liberal pulls that mask down or sees their face. Therefore, they need to meet that with the same energy. I feel like it is very unfortunate that Renee Good and Andrew Pretty, that is terrible. I hate that
It was
American
awful.
citizens
Yeah.
had to die. That is awful. And I'm not saying that I'm for that at all. But these Democratic politicians that are sending their people into the meat grinder so they can martyrize them and give more momentum to the platform and the idea that ICE is a bunch of fascist Nazis, well, it's not going to stop. They're going to keep feeding them into the machine. It's not going to stop. So as long as we've got, and this is, listen, by January 6th standards, this is an insurrection. We had over 1,500 Americans, some that weren't even on the property that day, hunted down like child predators and brought to conviction over, for the most part, fucking nothing. And now you have governors and the highest ranking officials in Minnesota, like Keith Ellison, their attorney general, that are covering up this fraud. They're pushing the more of the left-wing neoliberal movement on the ICE. They're pushing back against the federal government, and they're refusing to comply. And by fucking definition, that is an insurrection. Yet, for some reason, we can't get our president, which was supposed to be the toughest, baddest new sheriff in town, to push the Insurrection Act to go in and snuff this shit out. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is, in 2026, this year, in November, midterms are going to come down. And we're going to get slaughtered in midterms because, unfortunately, I don't see the SAVE Act getting passed, because although it is a pretty much 78, 80% national popular thing to have voter ID. These politicians clearly do not work for us. They do not care about us because they work for the donors. Like I said earlier in this episode, in American politics, 92+% of the time, the party or the candidate that spends the most money wins. Over 92% of the time, those that spend the most money wins, which means the donors are the ones choosing our leaders. Because not only do we have these large money entities that are dumping money into these elections, but we have illegals voting in them to keep receiving welfare benefits and to stay in the country. So the SAVE
That
Act
needs to
doesn't get
go.
passed. This is my hypothesis. The SAVE Act does not pass. Midterms come around and we get shit on. We lose half of Congress, whether that be the House or the Senate. Therefore, and both are terrible situations, but I see us losing the House more than anything. Now, if we lose the House has the ability to impeach. So therefore, for the rest of the 3 years that we have in office, well, at that point,
Yeah.
it'll be 2 and some change. We're going to be
Doing some
fighting
changes.
impeachments. The agenda is going to be completely stalled out. Trump is going to be impeached after impeachment. It's just going to happen and happen and happen. We're going to be back and forth in court. Nothing's going to get codified. We lose Congress, therefore we lose the majority. Therefore, we get nothing codified and set into law. Inevitably, the agenda stalls out, and the only thing that we ever got was some executive orders passed by Trump at the beginning. And that leaves us basically where we started, because whoever comes in next can sign a sheet of paper and make all of that go away.
Make it all go to work.
Like you said, spineless Republicans that are soft, all they have to do is kill the filibuster, which the Democrats said when they get back into power, they're going to do it. They said they're going to do it, not they're willing to do it. They said consider it done. So when they get majority again, they will forever pass their legislation because they will always vote in lockstep. They will never vote against each other. They are the cult, quite clearly. They do what they are told to do. They have their marching orders, and they follow them out. And to be honest with you, as far as these street commies out here protesting ICE, I don't even care about them. Let's go to the top of the pyramid. Let's get Tim Walz.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get Gavin Newsom.
The people funding it, period. Any dollar that went to any of that I've actually had to point out to people that there are places and websites and companies that will help get protests started.
A huge funder of that is OSI, the Open Society Foundation, and that is obviously George Soros, which is a billionaire Zionist Hungarian Jew. Shocker.
Who had merrymaking in helping them find the Jews.
Well, so did Prescott Scherf. And so did Mayor Bauer Rothschild. The Rothschilds and the Scherfs actually helped fund Auschwitz and the Holocaust. And you know what the crazy part is Prescott Scherf ended up moving to America, changed his last name to Bush, and had a grandson that ran the CIA and became the president, and a great-grandson that did the next. So, excuse me, I said that wrong. He had a son, George H.W., and then George W. was his grandson. So, Zionist, again, in the bloodline of the presidency of the United States. But like I said, we've allowed that to happen. So just real quick, I mentioned this earlier, and I don't know if I told you about this, but we did speak briefly before this, and pretty much just to catch up, really. We didn't really go over much of anything, but Canada, obviously, we have Carney up there, and he's quite obviously a high-ranking globalist. He's involved in this really deep. The only reason I think for a fact, the only reason that Carney won was because Trump kept making that joke about Canada becoming the 51st state, which made, Carney more popular because he pushed back against that, and that pissed off some patriotic Canadians, and then blah, 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 blah. And now we have a globalist running our neighbor country. But, they've been getting pushy with us. They actually went, and they went to Beijing, and they spoke to Xi Jinping, and they said that They're leaving the West. The countries that are still under the crown, like New Zealand and Canada and Australia, all those, basically the British Empire, what's left of the British Empire, and in Canada included, part of the British Empire, is going to be joining with Canada and going against the West. And so Trump actually called him out in Davos in front of the World Economic Forum. He called him out about those comments he was making and told him basically, remember, you're only surviving right now because of America. You only are in the spot you're in because of America. So keep all that tough guy shit up. But regardless, Canada decided they would run a war game simulation, and they did. And what it spit out is, and mind you, this is the time of AI and pretty accurate, calculated results. And I agree with these results. It's funny that they even come forward with what it spit out, but they are said to last in this simulation less than 48 hours against the United States of America. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I don't think it would last long. No, because they have what, 35 million, 40 million. We have close to 400 million,
Yes.
and none of their citizens are allowed to own guns. I mean, well, minus hunting rifles at the most, with maybe 5 in the magazine. I don't see
Earlier
it
this
lasting long.
year, they had to turn all their guns over to Ukraine earlier this year, right? Or was it last year? Last year, I mean. Last year, they turned all they had did a confiscation of their guns and sent them to Ukraine. Yeah. Well, so Um, there is this branch in Social Security Administration called the HVAA, okay? And since 2004, they have been helping states around the United States verify registered voters for their voter rolls, to make sure everything is legit. Well, since 2011, fortunately, the number has been pretty solid, around 28% on average, that spit back out unregistered, which means the Social Security number is not real, which means roughly 1 out of 3 voters in our system can't be verified. S Once again, you have the pushback on the SAVE Act, and people are saying, obviously, that brown people and black people and women are too stupid to figure out how to get documents that they're practically born with and handed over there throughout their life, and any
Oh, no, no.
responsible.
You need it to go buy liquor, you need it to drive a car, you need it to go to a concert, you need it to go down the list. There's so many things you need an ID to do, but yet voting, the thing that is gonna influence the future of our country, you don't need one for? What how does this make
Are
any
you
sense?
trying to tell me right now that voting, putting in power some of the most powerful people of quite un you can't even challenge it. It's undisputed, the most powerful country on the planet. Putting people
Yes.
in power of the most powerful country on the planet is more important than buying a pack of cigarettes or a fucking case of beer. I don't know, man. That's a pretty man, you're looking like a fascist anyway. Um,
That's right, dude.
so Well, recently, this was back in 2025, June or July, and I recently seen this, and I just want to kind of close out with something wild like this because it's very interesting. And Trump made a comment, it was last summer sometime, that we now, as the United States government military, have weapons that defy space and time. And then right after he made that statement, a top executive in the White House Science Department came out and said that we have now technology that make long distance travel almost non-existent. Wow. Why isn't that in the news? Why has nobody even brought this up and talked about stuff like this? We have weapons now and technology that defy space and time. Then why are we still dealing with all this bullshit we deal with?
Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, you know what's crazy is this recent bombardment of Venezuela. They came out and admitted to having all these high-tech weapons. Um, what was it? Was it laser technology they admitted to? And sound technology, sound
Sound,
weapons
yeah.
and laser weapons.
And they admitted it, yeah. Not just from the soldier, but our government, well, they kind of beat around the bush, but yes.
Well, see, here's the thing I've learned about not only our government, because obviously we have high ranking officials in our government that are doing satanic, evil shit, as these emails have shown us, but in general, leadership around the world is led by people that practice dark arts. And like I mentioned earlier in this episode, it comes from, and I mean, people called me crazy forever, and now I'm so vindicated. I don't even care what you think. I'm just going to say the truth because this is what it is. There are 13 families that run the fucking world. They come from a bloodline of parasites. They all originate in Venice, and they have been infiltrated. Now they are basically all modern day Zionists, and they run the world. And like I said earlier, the Star of Moloch is on the Israeli flag, which was a Zionist country that was started in 1948 post World War II, and they were originally going to name it Zion before they realized how they could manipulate Christians by calling it Israel. So that's what they went with. But neither here nor there. These people that worship this Luciferian type lifestyle, well, excuse me, they don't. Luciferianism is more like a free will thing. They look at Satan as like a intelligent enlightenment and a choice of free will. Do as thou will is their like motto. But this satanic sort of lifestyle, what comes with it is karmic retribution. You see, you can only get rewarded for your evil deeds in this religious aspect, and this is facts. You can only get rewarded for your religious deeds if you are transparent to the people you are perpetrating them on. And thus
Yeah.
comes in Hollywood, music, things like that, things that show us in our face what is going on or tell us what is going on. And then, of course, you have things like Pizzagate, where they just write it off as crazy. You're fucking crazy. You're
I
crazy.
mean,
And
if you watch, I would say any music videos from like the 1980s, 90s, early 2000s, 2010s, they all have the craziest subliminal messaging. It's just in your face.
well,
So,
well,
and
see, that's what I'm
and
saying.
then
It has to be, though. It has to be, or they will be punished for their evil deeds instead of rewarded. So, going back to the
yes,
transparency we just got from the government about weaponry, so to speak, it is becoming so rapid pace now. We're finding out so much so fast. Do you think they're just going to be way more transparent now just for the sake of hell? This was part of the plan anyway. We might as well tell them they're finding out.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we see from the files that COVID was planned. We see from the files that the whole transgender push on our children was planned. And that clearly shows us that Epstein was more than a patsy. This man was involved in vaccines and in Hollywood and A-list celebrities. He was involved in Israel and Mossad. He was involved in Saudi princes, British royals, and stock market trades and trade routes from other countries. And the man had his hands in everything worth, well, we don't know whether it was hundreds of millions or even quite possibly tens of billions of dollars worth of assets and liquid cash. He was facilitating women or pizza to so many high-ranking people that could get him out of trouble in a heartbeat, and which that also fuels all these conspiracy theorists. And like I said, we found in the documents that they had actually typed up finding him under the circumstances of his actual death, but the document was typed up a day before. And it was in the Justice Department leak where they had typed up the memo where they found him dead in his cell, but it was a day before.
Chris, what do you think about the photos going around of him in Israel with the beard?
I think that we have to remember it is 2026, and we are in a
Yeah,
time of massive manipulation and propaganda. And I think that AI is at the point now where you can damn near generate anybody doing anything that you want them to do, look any way you want them to look, and manipulate any outcome you want. So I think it's something that we all need to remember is
yes.
you can't even believe your eyes anymore.
Sad, man.
Now, I do recall seeing photos of him being taken out, face swollen, contorted. Like, you see his corpse in a neck brace on the EMS table. There's photos that leaked of all that. So, what makes that sketchy is they admitted that they distracted everybody with an empty van while they loaded his corpse in a black, like, tinted out car and took it privately on another route.
So, yeah,
So,
one of the soldiers came out, or, oh, not soldiers, one of the guards came out
yeah,
and
when
said, yeah,
yeah,
that they had
there
they
was in the emails there was files talking about him being transferred, and they said that they took him to medical, and he sent an email saying that he went to triage nurses and none of them seen him, and it was weird, and it was the day before he died that they took him out the night before. So they think that he got switched out, is what they're saying. But
yeah, yeah, exactly, that's what I was hearing. I don't again, we're in the day
we're
and age of
speculating. We're speculating. We're being conspiracy theorists right now. None of this is to be taken serious. We're just literally talking. Now, that being said, Jeffrey Epstein, through these emails we see, was involved in a lot of like weird scientific experiment shit. He was really into extending his life and living as healthy
yeah,
as possible. He got regular blood transfusions and things of the such. He was going to different countries and getting different medical procedures done, holistic things, injections, all that. And you see him talking to scientists about phenotypes of transgenderism and how the male to female will make so much money, how all these homo men, closeted homo men, can live a fantasy of performing fellatio on a man while looking up at a set of tits and a pretty face, and it's not gay to them anymore because it's a woman with a dick. Like, these conversations are really being had in these emails, and at the bottom of that one was, who knows, maybe in the near future we'll have a parent looking at their 3-year-old wondering if they're really seeing transgender traits or not. So, like, this was talked about and a bunch of different scientific shit that had to do with like nanotechnology and human testing, and so he was into that. So he was probably into cloning, I think it's safe to say. Maybe because what rich people do is they make clones of themselves and they try different like medications on them or scientific experiments on the clone because they have the same exact, everything, so they know how they will react to it. Maybe even something as simple as that. But if they did take the real him out and maybe possibly brought a clone in and then killed that, who knows? I mean, like I said, we're just talking. But yes, supposedly he's alive in Israel, and every other week he takes a trip to his island still, and blah 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 blah.
supposedly, yeah.
But I mean, hey, the same people that say that are probably the same people that think Israel's behind every blade of grass. So, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I'm not anti-Semitic. I do not believe in collective punishment, just as much as I don't believe that if one black man is not a father to his child, that all black men aren't fathers. Or if that one Spanish guy likes burritos, all Spanish guys like burritos. Or if that one white dude shoots dope, that all white people shoot dope and are junkies, or whatever the case may be, whatever the stereotype is. I don't believe you
Exactly.
collectively put that on a people. So just because there are a bunch of Kabbalistic, Zionist scumbag Jew elites that are really doing weird shit, that doesn't mean that I think every Jew on the planet is a satanic, evil, baby-eating motherfucker. That is not what I'm
Exactly.
saying at all.
And that's
But,
dude, people take that and they run with it, and they think that you are they construe it into a blanket statement, and it's like, "No, I'm talking about these specific people."
well, anyway. Well, Nick, it was nice having you tonight, man. We are just now we're busting an hour at this point. But I'd like to thank you for joining me, bro. And you have a blessed night. I have to get you on here again. Maybe in the next couple days, some cool shit will happen and we can come talk about it.
We'll see, man.
All right, man.
Hey, Christian.
Yeah, man. All right, everybody. Well, that'll do it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you all, and God bless America.